This is slow living. I know it doesn't look like what you've been seeing on YouTube, but stay with me here. I've been watching slow living content for years and I love a lot of it. But somewhere along the way, it feels like the aesthetic became the definition. And I want to talk about that. Not to tear anyone down, but because I think it can keep a lot of women from actually living slowly. So, slow living at its core is really about presence. And presence is gained by simply doing less. Less phone, less multitasking, less things on the schedule, and less consumption in general, whether that's physically buying stuff or actually consuming media. It protects one specific resource, your attention, not your time, your attention. If you think about it, that's what all these media companies are designing these apps for. It's to get you hooked and captivate your attention and keep your attention for as long as possible, which is why I think we see so much content around slow living, from slow living to the analog movement to the underconsumption core trend and even the tradwife trend. They all kind of go together in the same underlying values of valuing presence and protecting your attention. Because here's the thing. Your experience of being alive consists of nothing other than the sum of everything to which you pay attention. So, slow living isn't a list of activities, it's a quality of your attention. And when you think of it that way, it changes everything. So, now that we've discussed what slow living really is at the heart, that brings us to the aesthetic trap. Now, I know you've seen it, I've seen it, from the flowy dresses to the brown, freshly gathered eggs in the morning in a lovely little basket with a nice linen towel underneath, the tapered candles on the dinner table. None of that is wrong. It is beautiful. Those images give us this like nostalgic, cozy feel, and it's genuinely lovely. But here's what I think can happen. When that becomes the visual standard for slow living, women who can't meet that picture can start feeling like they're failing at it. And that's not fair because that aesthetic is often the output of specific life circumstances. A stay-at-home mom on the farm and a working mom in the suburbs or city can absolutely both be living slowly. They'll just look completely different. Slow living can be done across any kind of aesthetic, from the cottage core farmhouse aesthetic that we see a lot of to a very modern or mid-century city apartment, or a very traditional suburb house with a small yard and minivan in the driveway. Now, the content isn't the problem, but when we start thinking that slow living has to look a certain way, we accidentally make it something you need to opt into by having the right life first. Your version counts, even if it doesn't photograph the same way. Here's what I actually think slow living is. It's not about what you do. It's about your relationship to what you do. And I know that sounds weird. I'm going to give you some examples because I really don't hear people talking about this. All right, sourdough. If it's a stressful item on your to-do list, if you feel behind on your starter, if the timeline stresses you out, then that is not slow living for you. But if standing at that counter, working with your hands, being present in the process, and that creates a peaceful moment, then that's slow living. It's the same activity, but it's a completely different experience. Gardening. It's a lot of work. It could be stressful. It could feel like another chore, and sometimes it does. Or it could be the thing that gets you outside, connecting with nature and the seasons, creating genuine mental space. And that distinction depends entirely on you. While it might create mental space and relieve stress for me, it could be very stressful and something that you dread doing. even if you like the pictures on Instagram. Crafting like embroidery specifically is part of my slow living, but you might hate it. It might stress you out even though it looks peaceful when I do it. So the question I ask myself now is not if this is a slow living activity. The question is, does this create mental space and presence, or does it cost it? To do nothing is to hold yourself still so that you can perceive what is actually there. And honestly, I think that's part of the slow living too that I really haven't heard people talk about as much is by doing nothing, not having any input and consumption. It gives your brain and your body this time to rest. And then you actually start surfacing ideas and thoughts, and it just feels good. So when I say do nothing, I don't mean literally sit and meditate on your thoughts, though that is 100% valid and a great activity to do. But I'm talking as like a mom, managing my house, the kids, work, all of it. I generally just don't sit and meditate for 5 to 10 minutes. But I have incorporated doing nothing by simplifying the mundane tasks that I do and not trying to multitask and being productive doing regular maintenance activities that I can really do without thinking very much. So that looks like me washing the dishes without a podcast or YouTube video in my earbuds. That looks like driving without the radio on. It's creating quiet. And quiet is hard for people nowadays. But when you sit or do something that is simple and quiet, it is actually very healing to our nervous systems. Now, I'm not going to say my house is quiet while I'm doing dishes. The kids may be playing in the living room and it may not be quiet, but not having that extra layer of sound and input and consumption going on where I'm trying to focus on this podcast when I hear my kids over there while I'm washing the dishes. By just simplifying that, it creates more mental space. And that mental space feels better for my nervous system. So try to think about when you can do nothing, even if you're technically doing something. Because at first it's weird, it's hard cleaning the house without putting music on. Like, who does that? Well, I started to. And sometimes I do make the choice to put music on and bop around as I fold the laundry and put that away. But other times I do it in quiet and it's a completely different experience. If I want that little pop of fun, I'll do that music. But then other times when I just want that calmness and that peace and I need that, it's nice to do it without any input. So, what does slow living look like for me as a full-time working mom with a corporate job in the tech industry? With 2 toddlers in a house that is too big, has too much stuff, and requires too much work to maintain. It looks like frozen chicken bites thrown on a pan and popped in the oven so that I can go out and splash in the little kiddie pool with my kids. It looks like coffee on the patio outside on a Saturday morning while my kids play with chalk. It looks like relaxing with a good book, a little cozy video game, or my embroidery during nap time instead of trying to get more things done. And it looks like doing the dishes without playing a YouTube in my earbud. Not because I'm being virtuous, but because quiet is the point. Could I be cooking from scratch every night? Sure. But I've made an honest values call. An involved meal that I'm constantly being interrupted through, stressed, rushing around, trying to get all done in the little bit of time after I pick my kids up from daycare and when they're hungry and ready to eat. That's not slow living for me. Throwing some frozen chicken bites on a sheet pan, putting it in the oven, so I can spend my evening with my kids, that is. If I had more time, I would love to try to cooking from scratch more. However, in this season of life, working a full-time job with toddlers and wanting to really be present in that little bit of time that I get in the evenings with them, that's not the priority. I'll still try to make healthier choices, but that might be a salad kit and frozen chicken bites rather than a roasted chicken dinner. I'm gonna be honest, that type of evening didn't feel like it counted as slow living. No rolling hills, farmhouse, cottage core kitchen, cast iron, and sourdough in the oven. And I tried doing those things. I've had sourdough starter multiple times. It's just not something I could keep up with. And I felt like I was failing because everyone else was doing this. And I do think it's really cool. So I kind of had to grieve the slow living that I thought I needed before I settled into the one that was actually available to me. And I am not perfect at the slow living thing. It is something that I am learning and I'm trying to get better at to again save my attention and presence and put it towards what is actually important to me. I love this quote from An Unhurried Life. I listened to it while I was postpartum with my baby. I was having an audiobook, earbuds in my ear while we were nursing or rocking to sleep. And this book, The Unhurried Life, it is a Christian book. But even if you're not Christian, it has such a good message of slowing down, of creating space in your life and what that gives back to you. So, one of the best quotes from the book, in my opinion, the author states, "Hurry glances, love gazes." So just think about that for a moment. Hurry, rushing off to go do with a bunch of the activities. You will rock out the door, get into your car, and leave. And you won't even notice the new blooms that are opening up in your front yard landscaping and the butterflies and bees that are enjoying that. Whereas by slowing down, slowly walking out the door, holding your kid's hand, going down the steps, looking at the little flowers as you go by, maybe talking about them, the colors, which ones are popping up now, and noticing the butterflies and the bees, it's a different experience. And I know we can't always do everything slowly, but the more we can, the better life feels. So here's what I want to leave you with. Slow living isn't visual. It's not an aesthetic that you can buy into or a life circumstance that you have to earn. It's a quality of attention. And attention is something you already have. The question isn't whether your life looks slow. The question is whether your attention is free. And that's it. That's the whole thing. If this resonated with you, I put together a free slow living starters experiment list. It's not a prescription. It's just a starting point for figuring out what creates mental space for you specifically. And that's linked in the description. And if you want to see what this looks like in practice, I documented one of my own slow living experiments on this channel. I'll link it next.